All right, so let's move forward. Let's make that effort to slay Zaitan. What does that mean for us? What does it actually look like? Let's find out. I have a hunch it involves airships, right? Because we certainly hear a lot about the airships. All right. So there was a time, right? These days in Guild Wars 2, um, what server you're on, like here in the open world, while in Cursed Shore, this server that I chose upon creating this account is irrelevant, and players are put together within the same instance or I think if you're a Final Fantasy 14 player, I think it's called like a shard or something. But the same instance of the map, um, based on an algorithm of like who you've played with in the past and like who your friends list is, all these what guilds you're in, all these different factors. Guild Wars 2 calls it mega server. It's growing increasingly common in the way that MMORPGs are kind of managed, and it really is like it's a good system, and I like it. It used to be though that if I'm on Ferguson's, or most of my accounts at least are on Ferguson's Crossing, that there used to be a Ferguson's Crossing Cursed Shore, and that if you were in Ferguson's Crossing, that was the Cursed Shore you played in. Smaller servers, and Ferguson's Crossing was small at that point in time, often had a problem actually holding the temples. So the Temple of Balthazar, like the Temple of Melandria over here, the Temple of Grenth down here, right? Where we went on the story and talked to the Avatar Grenth. As a result, a lot of these would be illuminated, which they are not now. Right, this is the common state of the game right now. The common state of Ore is that none of these are actually active, making it very easy to waltz right up here, and that this is pretty much always open. There's an event here where if the event fails or if players do not do what they're supposed to do, then this will actually be shut, and you can't even access the dungeon. And there are several dungeons, COE, COF, where that is the case. These days with Mega Server, it's rarely an issue. But back when the servers had their own versions of each map, that was a common issue. Is you would have to go through the trouble of unlocking COE or COF or a RAW just to be able to play the dungeon if you wanted to run the dungeon. All right. So we are ready to take the fight to Zaitan. It is going to be a little bit of a time-consuming process. This is not a short battle by any stretch of the imagination, but why should it be? It's the final. It's the final battle. As we get a little bit deeper into this instance, I will talk a bit about why this is kind of a much maligned instance and why I think that's kind of unfair. Because I actually think, with the exception of one notable issue, it's a pretty good instance. Unfortunately, that one notable issue is significant enough that that it is a problem for the entire instance. So we have all of Destiny's Edge here. So in the background, while we were doing all of our commander things, all our personal story things, within the story dungeons, the story mode dungeon paths, Destiny's Edge, Ritlock, Air, Kaith, Logan, and... Wait, who are we missing? Where's Zoja? Is she like hiding behind someone because she's tiny? Is Zoja not... Oh, yeah, Zoja's not with us yet. And Zoja have been working through their issues and reuniting. And so here they are. We see a whole bunch of them. They are now fighting together again. They're now besties again. And they've worked through their issues, like one of those divorced couples that starts dating again, which I like. It's like super weird. But that's kind of what Destiny's Edge has done, right? There's no time to waste. Let's do it.
Oh, we've done some scouting. It is no walk in the park.
Even with the four of us to help, it will be a difficult battle.
As always, Selvari, your intent is good, but your math skills are subpar.
Zoja, you've come to help?
You think I'd let you go fight an elder dragon without a proper genius?
Zoja, I need you to know something.
I know. You blame yourself for Snaf's death. I blamed you for many years myself. But I'd blame myself if you went in and failed, and I could have helped. Snaff would have wanted me here.
Thank you.
You were saying, Kate?
Ara was once the city of the human gods. Even after the deities quit this sphere, it remained a golden, shining place. Until the folly of man sank it beneath the waves. Yet worse was still to come. The Elder Dragon awoke and pulled ore from its watery grave, and raised hordes of undead minions from the twisted wreckage. Now Zaitan's minions infest this place. We must rise above them if we hope to confront the Elder Dragon.
We'll need every airship if we're going to succeed in this mission. We must salvage enough power cores to get this one up and into combat. If Tyria is to have any hope, we must finish what we started. We must destroy Zaitan.
And with your help, we will.
One more thing. We have to thank you for bringing us back together.
I don't know what I've done.
You have led, by word and by deed. Without your example, we would never have reunited. I tried to force them. I was wrong. You have restored us.
Are we going to get started? Or just chat Zaitan to death?
We should stay together. The pack can guard the airship.
Alright, so power cores, right? We need them to power the airship, which we see right here above us. And when Kaith says, you helped us, you showed us the way, or whatever, that is again a reference to the story mode dungeons, which this character has not done. I did not include that in the story playthrough. But of course, when I was doing 0 to 0, I did do all of them except this one on this account. So I suppose from an account perspective, that is true. Those did all happen for us. Now, this used to be a 5-person dungeon path like any other story mode dungeon path or any other path of a Ra, although it was remarkably easier than the other paths of a Ra. And then at some point, the studio, in my opinion, rightfully so, recognized that that was frustrating a lot of players, because they didn't necessarily want to try and get a party together for a full-on dungeon just to complete their personal story, and that like anything else in the personal story, they should be able to complete it independently. Now, to this day, that's not necessarily true with the story. As we advance Season 1, Season 2, so on and so forth, there will still be times when we're going to have to do some sort of group content to ultimately complete the story. But ArenaNet does try to mitigate that, and they do a pretty good job. Whereas some studios are very concrete, like Square Enix, hey, to advance the story, you must now do this dungeon. Generally speaking, ArenaNet does not do that, and they made the adjustment to a Raw story mode for that exact reason. So now this is a solo instance. Certainly, I could have put together a party of 5 people. I could have got on LFG and been like, "Hey, I really need help with victory or death," which is still technically the Raw story mode dungeon. We will get credit for that in terms of our dungeon achievements when we complete this. But it is no longer necessary. We can complete it all on our own now, which is nice. So as we were attacking these obelisks, something of note there, as structures, they would not take, like when I used Winter's Bite here, the obelisk did not take any conditions, did not take any condition damage. None of the conditions affected it. They didn't even like register. Old structures only take power damage. That is the only thing that impacts their health pools, so to speak. At some point, relatively early in the game's development, it was Heart of Thorns, if not before. It might have even been season 2. The studio changed that to not punish condition damage builds. So now most structures will take condition damage, which is a little bit silly to like make the door bleed. But they didn't want to punish Condi builds with stuff like that, especially when there are some parts of the game that have like some pretty significant, like the importance of killing a certain structure or something is legit. So. And then with Season 1 having been redone, I assume that most of the stuff in Season 1, like any structures in Season 1, also take Condi damage. Since the studio had an opportunity to, go back through and revisit all that when they were redoing Season 1. That is going to be with our very next playthrough after this one, because this is the end of Core Story. Season 1 will be our next thing. Story-wise, it is quite old content. Almost 10 years old now. Development-wise, it's some of the newest content currently in the game as of March 2023, because between End of Dragons and the February 2023 patch, that was kind of what they rolled out. So we will see the story where it belongs chronologically, and we will see it as it was years and years ago. But from a game design standpoint, it'll look a lot more like 2023 Guild Wars 2. Oh, why am I stopping here? We still have one more core to get. Anyway, I will address that again, when we get to that point. We still have to kill Zytan. And you know what? We want some range here. This was actually one of the areas when this was like an honest-to-God dungeon and it required 5 people, where you would lose people a lot. Like, they just didn't understand that these eyes would really mess you up. And they would just kind of run through here. And, of course, we see that you got 2 stacks of bleeding from touching these, or 1 stack that time. But you get bleeding from touching all these, then these eyes just, like, dump damage on you really fast. And people would charge through here and immediately get schwacked, and then they'd be confused about, like, how it happened. When it was, like, pretty obvious how it happened, you charge forward without paying attention to what you're doing. Right? And that's a very, like, aggressive statement. That attack's pretty rough, too. And these knights, all like at a champion level, like that is an attack that they always have. It's like drawing that that line of like fire AoEs, and it should be like taken pretty seriously as like a. Tried walking into it that time as a pretty serious attack. Alright, so we got all 3 power cores. Now, in theory, we can power up the airship and join the rest of the... Is it a fleet? If it's airships, is it like a fleet or an armada? What is it? Is an armada specifically a pirate thing? It's not, is it? Like, I don't know. I don't know technically what an armada is. I guess I guess we're dealing with a fleet of airships.
Undead sighted. They're coming in fast. Blast!
That's not good.
Hold them off while we finish installing those cores.
Hurry up, Captain Bandom. Nope. People start disappearing, so that's them going up to the airship. In fact, now we can see the voices are coming from the airship there.
We're stuck. Someone has to stay behind to release the airship.
I'll do it.
No, Logan, we can't split up. Not this time.
Long ago, I failed all of you. I left you behind to fight. Now you need to leave me behind so you can carry the fight forward.
You don't have to do this.
Yes, I do. For all of you, and for myself.
Fine, but if you get yourself killed, I'll hound you into the mists.
Form up on me!
He had to stay behind. For all our sakes.
Well, so it would appear, at least at this point in time, that that is the demise of Logan. That was a lot of abominations. But he stayed below to cut the anchor after the rest of us got onto the ship, so that we can continue. So the playable area for this instance is actually quite large. And you can now see that we're moving from right there where all that power core stuff was right behind the entrance to Ura, and now we're moving, and this goes down quite a ways, right? And there's a lot to see here too. And this is like big stuff. I would love to be able to kind of like explore this area, like on a sky scale or something. But I'm not aware of any way to do that. There may be. Some of those map-breaking folks may have like discovered ways to kind of take a look at some of this and explore some of this. I've never really looked into it, but it would be interesting. Alright, so these guys appear to not want us to move forward. By putting this reflective shield, essentially we can just bounce all of their attacks back at them. Unfortunately, we do also have to balance that with like all these other things that are attacking us. I should have stepped away to kill that guy.
I could outrun a centaur. We heal as one.
Oh, did I get all three of them already? Nice. So that is the nice thing about the middle cannon, is the middle cannon can effectively reflect the projectiles from all three of them. From my experience, and maybe this can be proven wrong, but from my experience, anecdotally, if you choose the far left one here, you won't reflect the far right giant. If you choose the far right cannon, you won't reflect the far left giant. So generally, I try to go for the middle cannon. Oh, look, a helicopter. It is weird to me that the Char came up with helicopters before they came up with dirigibles, but...
Commander, you've made it! We need your help. We're landing troops in Ara and engaging Zaitan's minions. Our transports and troops are getting shelled by enemy emplacements. We need someone to help clear a safe landing zone.
Alright, well, let's hop on the helicopter and try to facilitate clearing a safe landing zone. So those green towery things, that is Orion kind of anti-air systems. And we do actually see that in the open world as well, so that's not something that's exclusive to this instance. There is a mission in Straits of Devastation, I believe. I think it takes... Oh, well, we could probably... Let's see. Yeah, we can't look at it right now, but I believe it's Straits of Devastation, where we actually see that. we take down a number of those actually. So if we spend too much time messing around with these gorillas, then it kind of becomes a little bit self-defeating, because ultimately they will continue to respawn. We need to specifically do damage to the tower here. And that's true of all 3 of these towers. It's not gorillas in all 3 cases, however. We got like some of these like armor and weapons that just kind of float in the air. These, you know, spectral archer and spectral whatever else they are, like swordsman or spectral wizard and stuff. And then I think, if I remember right, the other one, it might be oozes, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, Juggernaut, spectral Juggernaut. That's an impressive name.
You'll be feeling that one for days.
Man, a lot of these guys, right? Alright, let's do it. It's weird that the hitbox is so high. It's like way up there. Alright, so just as we saw a Sovereign Eye earlier, this presumably, you can see by its like legendary status here and stuff, is like the Sovereign Mouth. It doesn't say Sovereign Mouth, it just says Mouth of Zhaitan. But remember, we already killed a Mouth of Zhaitan. So presumably, this is like the Sovereign Mouth. So these orbs of flame are like the key to this guy, because when he does that like mouth open suction thing, that is our chance to inflict damage. And then we throw an orb of flame in there to stun him, and then that gives us the time that we need to do that thing. Oh, but I didn't have one, so now I've wasted that rotation. I was gonna use one of those, but then they all disappeared. Usually he'll throw some at you, and that's how you get them in the first place. There we go. That's what we needed. What? Pet down? Outrageous. Disastrous.
Stagger before the power of the dragon.
Nah, we're fine. Alright, there we go.
Let's give the skull something to sing about.
So as I previously mentioned, I think this is a really good instance, right? Look at all the stuff we got going on. We got like this air cavalry, we got an airship, we've done all these different things and fought different battles, and we still are only like halfway in. And now we're all the way down here, so we really are covering like a huge amount of ore as we engage in this battle. I think all these things are pretty good. It's a shame, like I said earlier, that this instance gets a bad rap for something that is yet to come, because up until this point, right, like we should feel like this is as good or better than any other instance in the core story. If it wasn't for how this one ends, I think it would be considered the best instance in core. But unfortunately, it is what it is. So we'll just have to live with it, I guess. So there's this, the way this airship moves is actually really cool. It has like forward momentum. So if you have, let's see here, something with particle effects, you see how those particle effects are streaming off of me? And it'll do that with like legendary weapons. It'll do that, anything that creates a particle effect, the movement of this airship will actually cause that particle effect to stream, you know, as it would, as see the effect there from me being immobilized, like all that stuff there, like miasma that surrounds me. So I think that's a really fun thing associated with this instance. As our airship is moving, you know, then they show us that movement with that kind of that visual cue. Alright, so we got some Tequatl type dragons that we're going to have to deal with here. But I don't want to do that until that guy's down. Alright, let's do it. Oh, and he's right there in front of us and we're too late. I think this would have been the... well, let's get off of here because now... Alright. Let's wait for him to come back around again. Because he will. I think he's on this side. We'll know based on his avenue of approach. Yep. Okay, so we got 2 skills here, right? We got a reflect shield, which we'll put up to kind of help protect us from some of his attacks, and then we're just going to spam that artillery shell on number 2 to do as much damage to him as we can. Which, I mean, not like super complex, right? But or we could die from condition damage while we sit there and spam buttons. No one to blame on that one but myself. There we go. So this is the one area where having like another person with you is nice, because then one person can man the cannon and the other person can take care of ads. But it is still very doable solo. I simply neglected to pay attention to what I was doing. This is, however, one of the more time-consuming parts of this instance. Because in terms of content, when I said we were about halfway, we were like 2/3 the way through in terms of content, but only halfway through in terms of time. And that's because both this portion and the portion that follows this are quite time-consuming. And this is where people start to get frustrated with this instance. I think what was originally intended to be somewhat theatrical, or in the positive sense, not in the negative sense, but in the positive sense of like this is, you know, cinematic, if you will. Maybe that's a better term than theatrical. This is meant to be kind of cinematic in nature. Instead, it sometimes frustrates people. And if they do it 3 or 4 in a group, then that's probably more true, because this becomes trivial in terms of difficulty. But they're still going on these like long waits. Like in between that dragon and the next one, or that Tequatlish kind of dude, we gotta have a little bit of a wait, and that wait isn't necessarily rewarding in nature. There's plenty to see. We can see the entire, well, if the floor of the airship wasn't getting in our way, we would see, you know, like the entire fleet is out here and they're engaged. So they're all, the entire, you know, packed fleet presumably is going through what we're going through right now. And hopefully they're better at it than I am, right? There we go. We can see a little bit better from this point of view.
Feel the fury.
I should be getting another dragon here pretty soon. Ah, there he is. Hey, buddy. So I really like the consistency in the model in terms of Tequatl and then like Blightgast or whatever was the one at Claw Island, and then all these ones. They all give us names too. It'll be up here when it shows like the health bar. We will see the names of them. One of them was like Moonslayer or some nonsense like that. Horagos, the Soulbreaker. Yeah, that's good, man. Like Zaitan's spending all of his time sitting around like thinking of like clever names for his like lieutenants and stuff. He should probably spend a little bit more time, I don't know, like making more eyes and mouths, I guess. But just the same, kind of cool. So we got a second one here too. We see Fafnir and the Heartslayer. Which one are we going to get a chance to fire up first here? Generally, what I try to do is take care of one at a time. So in theory, we'll continue to work this cannon and work Horagos, the Soulbreaker over here. And that way, it gets that much easier to deal with Fafnir and the Heartslayer later. Oh man, I'm doing a bad job of this. See, there's the other one, working that other side. But we also got, like, ads and stuff, so. If you try and deal with both simultaneously, it kind of all gets to be a bit much. Why isn't my pet doing anything about those guys? Like, straight up, dude, I'm busy firing a cannon. Alright, we're gonna have to come off this cannon and deal with these guys. Hey, off the cannon. Oh, Kaith came out to help, though. So, Kaith will actually, from time to time, come out to help. But probably not nearly to the degree that was intended when they, like, put her on the airship. It would be like super cool if they actually took a look at like the AI or tethering or whatever that's associated with that and said, hey, you know, let's actually have Kaith do something meaningful. Kaith is already, in my opinion, like one of the least likable characters. Like, she is such trash. But to make her like more unlikable with little mistakes like that, like, oh no, poor Kaith. But seriously, she is such a piece of garbage. And we'll get to all that, you know, as we progress through the story. Then, like, the idea behind, like, who and what she is becomes clear. And I think some of the story around Kate, as we get to it, I think is genuinely intended to make her like a sympathetic type character, where we're like, oh man, like Kate's really been through a lot, and it's understandable that why she does some of the things she does later on in the story and stuff. But it never feels that way to me. It never does. Maybe that's a personal prejudice thing. I don't know. Then again, I literally feel that way about the player character too. So, maybe, yeah, maybe. If you're in a room and you think everyone else is a jerk, maybe the jerk is you, right? All right, finally, Soulbreaker and Heartslayer down. Good job, everybody. I appreciate everyone's contribution, even Kate's. Oh no! All of our cannons. Simultaneously. Prepare to abandon ship. I guess we've taken more damage than just the cannons. We got a lot of black smoke, which means we're burning oil, right? Like something, fuel or oil or something is burning there. That's not good. Holy smokes, look at that airship though. So look at this ship in relation to the one that we're getting off of, right? It is truly giant. And even as we run around on it, it is truly giant. I think it's pretty impressive in terms of development at this phase in Guild Wars 2, what they accomplished there.
Everyone onto the other ship!
Come on, you laggards! We don't have all day.
Logan, you're alive!
Did you think I was going to let you go up against Zaitan alone?
Logan, I'm delighted to see you're well. I thought.
I know. I got out by the skin of my teeth and hopped a lift with this ship. It's a new design.
Impressive. I think this is just what we need to take down a dragon.
Everyone to your battle stations. We're going in.
All right. Well, I don't know where my battle station is because I literally just jumped onto this airship from that one. And who is steering that away? Someone like totally was like, all right, I'll bite the bullet and I will steer this airship away to go crash responsibly while everyone else goes to safety. Like, can we just like salute? Actually, we can't salute. Here, let's salute real quick. We'll make sure their family gets their Medal of Honor because they are donezo. Okay, so sometimes this is hard to trigger. Like this next part. Sometimes if you run out all the way out here, because see, we still got like the little like green thing here. That kind of hangs out sometimes until you like run way out to the edge of the ship. But it is also an opportunity to see like how truly large this is. So remember when the two mechanics were talking about an airship that still wasn't ready to go? That was the glory of Tyria. This is that airship. So now we see they finished the work on it, and it is good to go. And we got like a super giant laser here, and then we got all these cannons. We got like harpoon guns down here. You can actually come down here if you want to really like take a bunch of time within the instance to do all kinds of things. You can wander all over this airship and stuff. It's cool.
Stand aside. I have this.
Excuse me, this is a mist-cooled tripartite Thaumatrium energy weapon.
Uh-huh. With a lead tracer array set for draconic energy. Who do you think designed it? I know how to handle this. I won't break it. Much.
They'll have to hit much harder.
All right. So Zoja's gonna get ready to like fire the super laser up there. That's we can't see it. There we go. That thing. Zoja's gonna shoot that thing at Zaitan. Now, even at this point, I don't necessarily like. I still think this is a pretty strong instance, right? Like we got all kinds of stuff going on here, and Soja's getting ready to do her thing. But this is where some folks are going to start having a problem with how this instance manifests. Oh my gosh. There, finally. And that's because relative to... it's like ArenaNet kind of inadvertently wrote a check that they couldn't afford to cash, right? We get this big flyby. Everything up until now has been awesome, and that's almost part of the problem. Everything up until now has been awesome, but then we get this big flyby where Zaitan's like, hey, check it out, I'm a giant Elder Dragon. And then the action for the player doesn't fulfill that promise made when we saw that. I still like Core Story a lot. And I know a lot of folks don't like Core Story. A lot of folks think it's the worst story that ArenaNet's done, and that's crazy to me. After Season 3, that's crazy to me. But, I don't know. There are a lot of players who think a lot of things. I don't know what to say about it. I do like Core. Unfortunately, it doesn't end super strong. Okay, so we've inflicted significant damage. We shot his whole ass off, which I thought was I think is really well animated, where the one section of his tail kind of hangs on until it finally tears off and stuff. I think that's cool. He responded by turning his attention directly to the laser, which shot him. So there goes that. And now we will actually see him if we come over here. So he's no longer able to fly right because of his tail, but he's hanging out over here, clinging to this spire, if you will, these ruins of ancient ore. He's clinging onto them, kind of trying to climb up there and continue the fight, which is where we get these two more Eyes of Zaitan here and all that business, right? So I'd earlier said that much of ore we don't actually have as playable area yet, but I suppose if you take a step back and you look at all the ground we've covered throughout this dungeon, then really almost all the area that is not playable in ore is actually covered by this dungeon. Something I didn't really take into consideration initially, but a lot going on there. Okay, so we're closer than ever to Zaitan, and here's really where people get real butthurt, because this is how we're going to finish Zaitan, by pressing 1 and shooting what looks like fireworks at him, right? So the problem, whoops, the problem for us then, and really the problem for ArenaNet, it's not our problem, is that, like I said, the promise of everything up to this point is not fulfilled by what's happening here. This is, from a gameplay perspective, a huge letdown. Compared to, here the health bar is slowly going down. But, all we have to do is occasionally leave the cannon to make sure that we don't, get hit by, some of these other things that are happening. That's it. And it's true. The players who say, "Hey, that's not rewarding," well, they're right. That's not rewarding. Um, for me, I'm a little bit more willing to kind of give it a pass simply because the rewarding part of the reward was getting all the way to this point. So it's like, okay, this isn't, this isn't necessarily good, but um, the battle was getting here, I guess. But I definitely understand how a lot of folks like don't feel like that's an adequate excuse, and they are 100% entitled to feel that way. Now, there was, from what I understand, the original plan was that when this is complete, the player would then like go down to finish Zaitan off, because all this is a fight to knock him off this spire, but he's not like truly finished yet. I don't know 100% that that's true. That's my understanding. If it is true, I would love to see that reflected somewhere at some time in a way that allows the players to kind of get some of that closure, because it would have been a nice way of going about it, right? Like that would have been, it would have felt better if we then go down in some way, down into the depths of ore down there to really finish him off, because we see him, whoop, down he goes.
The Elder Dragon is no more.
We have succeeded, but only by coming together to fight a greater foe. You have shown the way. We, and all of Tyria, are in your debt.
More confirmation of how great I am.
That, of course, that line from Keith would be followed by the human female, like level up statement of just one more example of how great I am, or whatever she says. Of course it would. Why is the commander, like, why is so much of this attributed to the commander versus like all these other people who were involved? And I'm not just talking about like Destiny's Edge. Okay, here we got Destiny's Edge. I'm so glad that y'all have worked through your issues or whatever. But look, we got these Whispers folks. We got Priory. I'm sure we got some Vigil around here. Some Vigil. What about all the other? What about the guy who stayed on the airship and piloted it away so that it wouldn't crash into this airship? Like, what about the crew down here? But no, it's the commander. The commander is the one who made this happen. Hey, great. Like, I needed that for my ego today. I was feeling really down about myself until Keith told me that I single-handedly saved the world. And that made a huge difference for me. In fact, I liked it so much that I'm going to go to a party in my honor right now. So, we have succeeded in slaying the Elder Dragon Zaitan, and that is central to the core storyline in the core game, right? However, Traherne still wants to meet up with us back here in Fort Trinity. So let's go scope this out. Oh, hey, yay, people cheering. Now it'll kind of happen as we continue to go up here. We got people dancing, celebrating, cheering, and that's what this is. So this is just an instance to kind of, like MMORPGs, you don't beat the game, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't make much money. But this is, the closest we're going to get to like the beat the game little celebration and like ending credits and all that.
Victory at last.
With
With Zaitan defeated, the corruption it wrought can be undone. The dragon's undead minions that still infest Tyria will now gradually be exterminated. One day soon, that plague will be but a memory.
Courage, skill, and friendship brought the dragon low. Let this day never be forgotten.
A victory that all Tyria can share.
This is not an ending. There are other dragons out there. Other battles.
You shambling fuzzball. Can't you just be happy?
I was being happy.
Will you return to your queen now, Logan?
No. Not until I know that Kryt is safe.
Meaning he's up for more fighting. See? Logan's happy too.
Snaff would be proud of us. Especially of you, Zojja.
Proud that we didn't screw up and plant our faces in the mud again, you mean? Well, I guess he would, at that.
So, who's next? Jormag, Primordus, Krokatoric?
As dawn scatters shadows, so we will destroy them all. We could not have done this without you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You can count on me.
Good. Because Air is right. The rest of the dragons are still out there, waiting.
So even at this point in core game, they are already kind of making promises about the future of the game. It would have been very foolish of them to insert dialogue like that if they did not intend for more to happen.
I get results. What's your excuse? A vivacious lass like you joining the uptight and straight-laced vigil?
Huh. That makes two of us that don't fit the profile. Let's have a drink and see what else we have in common.
Oh, Haley Jade and Ben 10 Strikes. Scandalous. So Ben's another character that had we made different choices, I believe Order of Whispers, then we would have got to meet Ben 10 Strikes. He's like a mercenary sort of figure. Oh, hey, look. What's up, Sayed? So it is unfortunate that we don't really get more of the Largos after core story. We may once or twice, but as of right now, I don't remember it. And it certainly is limited if we do. Because, again, I played through the story multiple times. I don't remember at this point in time any other significant interaction with the Largos after core story.
Are you well?
There is some open world stuff.
Hiding from the crowds, Traherne? No, that won't do. The world needs to see the Pact Marshal celebrating.
Not hiding, my friend. Thinking. Completing my wild hunt lifted a weight from me, but Zaitan is still a terrible threat. Now that threat is truly gone, it feels like the sun has finally emerged after a cold, endless night. I can't help but wonder, what's next? Now that we formed this unstoppable alliance and tempered it in battle, where do we take it?
To the next challenge, the next victory. There are more Elder Dragons to confront, and now we know how. We know they can be defeated. First, we celebrate. We won, Marshal. It would be a crime not to stop and appreciate that. Come on. There's an army of people and an ocean of libations waiting. All of Tyria deserves to share this triumph, including you. Join us.
All right. Let's celebrate. Come on, Traherne. Let's go. Yes, again, I exclusively deserve the credit for this. Let's go celebrate me. Come on. And you will see that dead honored in just a second. I'm going to get, like,
only
a
regret
weapon skin,
is that I was
and
not there to
5
see
tomes of
Zaitan
knowledge.
fall.
It's exciting.
But I shall look forward to the skulls celebrating your triumph.
It is weird that games are designed that way. Like, I know I've been going on about it, but it's weird that games are designed to
We've earned
just
the right to set down our
gush at
burdens
the
for a
feet
time
of the
and
player.
celebrate.
Yes, we have. We have earned the right. Let's do it. Let's wrap this up. Go team. I'm going to get in the middle here where I belong, because obviously this is all about me.
Zaitan's defeat has saved many lives. More importantly, it has restored hope to a desperate world. The dragons are not stars in the sky. They can be counted. They can be fought. One day, we will kill the last of them. Only then will Tyria be safe. This is a new beginning for Or, and for Tyria. A clear sky after a long storm. This is a dawn that Tyria shall never forget. This day is ours.
All right, and we got our stuff and another mastery point. So as we kind of wrap it up in the core story, and as I wrap it up for this afternoon, but as we complete the core story and move towards season 1, I do want to kind of provide a couple notes, and one of those notes is in regards to this mastery point here. If you are pursuing like core Tyria masteries and you are having trouble figuring out like where to get your mastery points from, and you're like, how can there possibly be enough? I've been getting them from fractals, and I've been getting them from there's some out in the open world and some achievements and stuff. There are a lot of them buried in the story. Okay, so now we have what we need to finish getting Mistlock Singularities. Yes, there's still 4, 10, 19 more to get all the Central Tyrian Masteries here for us, but also there are a whole bunch more buried in Season 2, which we'll get to later. So if you're like disregarding the story and then getting frustrated about the lack of mastery points, play the story, because there are a lot of them in the story, both core and Season 2. The other kind of significant note that I want to address real quick before we wrap it up is, now that we've played through the core story, I think it's worth kind of reiterating that core story, I think, is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. And I'm not sure why it's like fashionable to say like, oh, finally I'm through the core story, and now now I can really start to enjoy the story because I got that silly core story out of the way. And I think it's a real shame, because if if you're easily suggestible and other people saying that has convinced you that like season 3, or even like season 1, Path of Fire, quite frankly, is atrocious. If people have convinced you that some of these are like way better than the core story just because they said it and read it time and time again, then that's fine, man. Like go on with your truth. But like from a storytelling standpoint, like in terms of how one goes about telling a story, core is at least as good as any of the others, and probably better than 3 or Path of Fire. Season 1 and Season 2 in of themselves are kind of, particularly Season 1. Season 1 is pretty ridiculous. It's fun, but I mean, it's just madcap with comic book nonsense and things that are like implausible even within the world they've created and so forth. And we'll start getting to that here real soon. But I think people should appreciate, I'm not saying like don't play the story at all. On the contrary, appreciate the core story. That's all I'm saying. It's not, wow, that guy walked right at us. It is not worse than the others, and I think it 100% can be appreciated and can be enjoyed. But now we are done with it. So when we pick up next time, we're going to be diving into season 1. And as I said, it's kind of a madcap comic booky adventure, but it really sets the table for what was at the time several years of gameplay. Because there was season 1, and then there was season 2, and then there was a significant content drought. So for a lot of players, the combination of 1, 2, and that content drought was like 3 or 4 years of time. It was a significant amount of time. So season 1 sets the table for all that, and it also set the table for a lot of systems and a lot of like the way meta events are done in Guild Wars 2 now is defined by season 1. The way maps are put together is defined in season 1 and season 2. So much of what we know in Guild Wars 2 now was learned through trial and error during season 1 and season 2. So we're looking forward to diving into that and exploring it more. And I'll talk a little bit more about that before we actually begin the gameplay. But I do appreciate you joining me as we finally wrapped up the core storyline, and I look forward to you being with me when we dive into season 1. So, thank you, and have a good one.